COVID-19 vaccination in some parts of India's coastal areas has been suspended due to the landfall of Cyclone Yas. TRC witness Sekou Jallow says Bultamba convinced Jammeh to kill the 2006 alleged coupists. And Uganda is witnessing a sharp increase in the number of coronavirus cases, especially among the youthful population. These and more coming on The World today. Stay tuned. Good evening, viewers. You are watching The World Today newscast here on Africa TV with me, Sohna Tunkara, and now to our news in detail. We begin with matters of the presidency, where His Excellency President Adama Barrow will attend an extraordinary summit of heads of states and governments of ECOWAS scheduled for 30th May 2021 in Accra. Following the recent coup d'etat in Mali, President Barrow will join other heads of state and governments to discuss the situation in the country. And the meeting is a collective regional effort geared towards restoring democracy as well as strengthening peace and security in the African region. From there, COVID-19 vaccination in some parts of India's coastal areas has been suspended due to the landfall of Cyclone Yas. But according to the Indian Meteorology Department, the Cyclone Yas is likely to weaken a depression by late Thursday. The cyclone made landfall on Wednesday morning along the country's West Bengal Odisha coast with a marginally lower intensity and a wind speed of at least 130 km per hour. Fatmata Kasim has more of that in this report.
Cyclone Yas sparking winds of up to 130 to 145 kmph white splashed the country's eastern coast on Wednesday, dumping heavy rains, damaging houses and farmlands, killing at least 3 people in Odisha state and forcing more than 1.2 million people to seek shelter. Yas, which was earlier classified as a very severe cyclonic storm, hit the coast north of Dhamra in Odisha, Bandrak district and 50 km south of Balasore, close to Banega block around 9 a.m. Affected by the cyclone, Odisha suspended COVID-19 vaccination in some areas. In Bhubaneswar, capital city of Odisha, some residents risked going to the vaccination center but found themselves nothing. According to the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, 10 million people were affected by the cyclone in the state, with 3 lakh houses damaged due to the cyclone. Jharkhand, already on high alert, continue evacuating low-lying areas amid the forecast that the cyclone would be hitting the state by midnight. This is the second cyclonic storm to hit India within a week after Tauktae tore into its western coast, causing deaths and destruction. Meanwhile, India is still battling with the pandemic. The COVID-19 tally has reached 27,369,093 on Thursday, with 211,298 new cases added during the past 24 hours, said the Federal Health Ministry. Over 3,800 additional deaths were recorded since Wednesday morning, taking the overall death toll to 315,235. Significantly, there are still 2,419,907 active cases in the country, with a decrease of 75,684 cases in the past 24 hours. The number of daily active cases has been on the decline over the past few days after a continuous surge since mid-April. Up to date, a total of 24,633,951 people have recovered and discharged from hospitals, according to the latest data from the Federal Health Ministry. So far, over 202 million vaccination doses have been administered to the people across the country. The country has already started the third phase of the COVID-19 vaccination, covering citizens aged 18 and above, though an acute shortage of vaccines is being felt across the country. A total of 1,885,805 vaccine doses were administered on Wednesday alone. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
Unfortunate situation in India's coastal side where Cyclone Yas kills at least 3 people amid challenges posed by the virus. Now, violence against women and girls is a widespread problem, with 1 in every 3 women worldwide having experienced physical or sexual violence at some point in their lifetime. The United Nations expressed concern that the COVID-19 pandemic had only intensified violence against women and girls, particularly on the domestic sphere. As featured in this report, while the stay-at-home orders were crucial in preventing the spread of the COVID-19, they also had other phases on human rights issues. Here's more in this report.
Gender-based violence is known as any violence directed to persons because of their gender. As women and girls who form majority of victims are confronted with disease including sexual, physical, and even economic harm in both public and private domains. The prevalence of gender-based violence in the Gambia is reportedly high, as 1 in 4 women between the ages of 15 and 49 is likely to fall victim. The national coordinator of the Network Against Gender-Based Violence, Faluso, explains the type of cases mainly reported.
Also, during the lockdown, we have a number of cases of also wife battering cases, especially involving women who are pregnant at that time. And all those things could be associated to the effects of the lockdown.
During the lockdown, access to services and justice for survivors of violence as well as preventive measures were seriously paralyzed. Superintendent Lamin Jai, spokesperson of the Gambia Police Force, identified the issue of late reporting of cases to the police as challenge to the required investigative procedures in response to gender-based violence.
In the investigation of cases of gender-based violence, people are reluctant to report. One thing, because they want to negotiate the cases at their level, and if they fail in the negotiations, that takes a day or 2 or 3, then they report such matters to the police. At that time, perhaps a vital part of the evidences are already destroyed.
Global partners coined the UNIT campaign, a multi-year effort aimed at preventing and eliminating violence against women and girls around the world by 2030. Gambian gender activist Jama Jack is pessimistic that Gambia will hit the Agenda 2030.
But I don't think we'll meet the 2030 timeline if we're being very realistic. I think very recently we had the demographic health survey data released. I think that was last week. And the data on there is showing us we have such a long way to go. And I think the first step is really having the government, who are responsible for protecting people, to have this as an important part of their agenda.
The latest demographic health survey showed a 5% increase in the percentage of women who have experienced physical violence from 2013 to 2019. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
The effects of COVID-19 on the economy of the Gambia cuts across businesses, especially those starters as well as small and medium enterprises. The sector, accounting for nearly 40% of the GDP in developing countries like the Gambia, is noticeably driving her to leave the effects of COVID-19 behind. Our reporter Binta Fati spoke to some entrepreneurs as well as stakeholders on the effects of the pandemic and recovery measures. Here's what she files in.
Being one of the biggest markets in the Gambia, the Serekunda market attracts thousands of buyers from different parts of the country, thus serving as the best market for most of the vendors, especially women. These women work from dawn to dusk to ensure they make ends meet. However, they complained that life at the market is always tough for them, as KMC officials always drive them away from their normal selling points. Adam Masadi